favorites and then act shocked when a team member quits. It's not uncommon for an inexperienced or newer manager to make this mistake when they first start out because they gravitate towards comfort. They prioritize team members that agree with them, make their job easier, or stroke their ego. So this shows up as unequal recognition.
The minute you have a manager or a boss that is very high schooly and plays favorites, you need to get on the computer and start applying because you will not be there for long. Shout out to Nat out of office that posted that video. This is probably one of the most common issues that I see with people in management is the partiality and the prejudice. Okay? And you're not going to know if your manager plays favorites or if your manager is high schooly. It's going to take a couple of weeks into the job for you to see the kind of manager that you have. Now, again, between men and women, there are some men that do it. I've had a male manager that I feel like he low-key was sleeping with one of the guys that was also on my team, and that guy would get promoted every 2 weeks. That's the vibe I got, because he hated all the women that worked on my department, but he loved the boy or the man, and he kept pushing him. Every 2 weeks, he was getting a promotion and a raise. So I knew they were sleeping together, and I'm never wrong. That right there can get him into a lot of trouble. I don't work there anymore, but the women would team up and talk about it because they were noticing it. And when you're a manager, you never want people to notice that you're impartial. You do not want to ever give anybody the legal ground to file a report for partiality, prejudice, or a manager that plays favorites. You're done. If they gather enough data, you're done. And I'm going to talk to you guys in the masterclass on Sunday how to cross your T's and dot your I's as someone that works in HR, how to file a complaint that you know will get, how to file a complaint that you know they will do their research on and investigations. Because I'm going to be honest with you, in HR, some of you guys' complaints don't get investigated. Okay? That's why you have to write a complaint that you know for sure will get investigated. And I'll talk about that in the class. But anyways, I'm going to go there. A lot of times, if you have a woman that is your manager, she is going to play favorites. I'm telling you that right now. There's a 95% chance that she's not going to have the maturity to not play favorites. She's going to make friends with her employees. She's going to go out to eat with them. She's going to go out to drink with them. She's going to go to the strip club with them. You have to prepare yourself for that. If you have a woman as your manager, there's a 95% chance that she is going to play favorites and make friends with women that are her employees. And when she makes friends with the women who are her employees, if those women don't like you, they're going to bring complaints to her about you, and you're going to get fired, written up, or she's going to give you a hard time. That's why I personally have said that it's very rare that I will allow myself to have a woman as my manager, because I do not know if she will have the maturity to be in that type of position. And 9 times out of 10, I always get disappointed. In order for a woman to be in a position of leadership, you have to leave that communal stuff in the parking lot. There's no communal in the workplace, meaning you cannot try and be friends with all the women that are in your department. That's not how it gets down in there. You have to cross your T's and dot your I's so that you don't get into a lawsuit. Okay? Nobody has the time to go to their place of work and have to deal with any form of partiality. Partiality equals mental dwarfness. There are certain positions that you hold where you don't have the time to be partial or prejudiced or play favorites. One of the most difficult managers or terrible managers I've had in my past are managers, male or female, who are mentally dwarfed. Meaning they don't understand that this is not high school. We're not on the playground. We're not at a bar on the beach. This is a work environment. Meaning you don't get favorites here. You don't get favorites here. These are your employees. You should see them as employees, and you should give them all a fair chance. The problem is when you are in corporate America and you have a manager that lacks integrity and you have a manager that lacks maturity, you're going to have to deal with nonsense like that. We'll talk about this in the Corporate Spartan Masterclass on Sunday. We're 2 days away. Don't forget to sign up. Sunday at 7 Eastern Time on Zoom. What people have to understand is the minute you start working for a company, and you're not going to know on the first day if they play favorites. You're not going to know during the interview process. Everybody's on their best behavior during the interview process. But within the first week of working, if you come to the conclusion that certain people are getting certain treatments that other people don't get, it's time to pull up your resume, update it, and start applying again. We'll talk about that in the class. When somebody has a management style where they play favorites, I personally see this more often than not with female managers. Women are communal, and it's okay to be communal because as women, we heal in circles. There's nothing wrong with being communal. However, there's a place and a time for everything. Notice I say that a lot in my videos. There's a place and a time for certain things. That's also a part of social awkwardness, is when you don't know if your actions are appropriate for the environment that you're in. A manager has no business being friendly with their coworkers. None. Your colleague should not be at your house. I shouldn't be on Zoom seeing one of my coworkers in your kitchen during the Zoom call. That is unprofessional, it's immature, and it shows a lack of integrity. And what I've noticed is when you have particularly women as managers, they start crossing that line where they are now teaming up with certain women in the office and playing favorites with certain women in the office. And you're like, you can't do that. Okay, so if you are a woman or a man and you go into a workplace and you see that there's a favorites game going on, that means there's a lack of integrity. That means there's a lack of structure. And that means that it's time for you to get out of there. I had a situation like this where I had a manager who hired her cousin to work at the office, which is fine. People hire their family low-key all the time. As long as the professionalism is there, that's what matters. So this girl had a boyfriend that lived in Long Island, New York, working in Miami. I live in Miami, working in Miami. And she would go and see her boyfriend every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back Monday, Friday. She was doing this every 2 weeks. And I was constantly getting asked if I could cover that shift. And I would cover it because I wanted, to make extra funds to pay for my books for school. There was a time I couldn't cover that Friday because I had some type of event or something to go to. So I couldn't come to work that Friday to cover her shift. And the manager, which is her cousin, wrote me up about it. And I told her, I said, hold on a minute. I've covered for your cousin probably 10 times and counting. So the one time that I can't, I am now being penalized for it. And I told her, you know what that means, right? And she's like, what? I said, that means you play favorites. That means that I have legal ground to file a case with HR because you're playing favorites and you're not allowed to do that. And I have the records to show that. So just like what we're going to discuss in the class, a lot of these things that you guys see happening in the workplace, your managers know that it's not allowed. They just hope that you know. They just hope that you don't know that. So a lot of these managers that are, not having any integrity, that are doing things in the workplace that they know is not up to par with bylaws and employment bylaws, they are relying on your ignorance to do whatever they want. You don't trust your managers. I think I've already spoken about this before. Managers are not your friend. No matter how kind they are to you, their goal is to give everybody enough work so they don't have to work too hard. That's their goal. They don't care about you at all. Never put that in your mind that they care about you. They just want to keep things moving smoothly so they don't have to keep stepping in. That's why certain managers will hide in their office and lock the door, even when the floor is crazy, so many patients, they're not going to come out because they don't want to get their hands dirty. Okay? So a manager, supervisor, boss should not have favorites. That is not allowed. They are not allowed to do that. And the minute you see that, it's time to file a complaint. And I will teach you guys the proper way to file an HR complaint in the masterclass. There is a way to go about things. There are certain verbiage to use so that you get your independence. However, if you do decide to go to HR, I hope you're already looking for a job. Because I hate to say it, we live in a world where people don't really care. People don't have integrity. They don't have a conscience. So if the people working in HR are also immature, they are also not going to follow the rules. That now you have to get a lawyer. Okay, and there are some lawyers that will help your case for free, and then you pay them when you win the case. And employee cases are not hard to win because there's a lot of corruption in corporate America. So the problem is nobody's saying or doing anything about it. That's why companies are getting away with it, because nobody is saying A, or B, doing anything about it. And C, nobody's documenting things. Okay. I worked in HR for several years. So in this class, I am going to teach you guys tips, tricks, and valuable information so you can be a corporate Spartan. It is not easy working in corporate America, but if you have the right office politics and you know your rights legally, that will definitely help you have a more enjoyable experience. So this class, I will be teaching you from an HR standpoint, what to do, what not to do, and how to jump paths so that you can get the promotions that you always wanted, what to look out for and what not to look out for in office politics. Also, next class on power. Power is very, very important. This class is not about feminine power. It's about power in life and having staying power. To get through life, when you're dealing with humans, men and women, you need to learn how to make sure that you have staying power, and you need to learn how to make sure that all of the moves that you make sense so you can always be 25 steps ahead of everyone else, because life is chess, not checkers.